Brandon Aiyuk, and we also had Charvarius Ward. What were your thoughts on Brandon Aiyuk and Charvarius Ward making second team and potentially not making first team because there was some argument that they could have been first teamers?
I think Charvarius Ward had a good case to make it. He led the league in pass breakups, in interceptions. He's done extremely well. I do think potentially he kind of like ascended as the season took off. So his start wasn't as good as his finish. And I think when they're looking for these, because they are looking for the best of the best, maybe they would want that like consistent elite play. Not that he wasn't playing elite, but I definitely think he's picked it up as the season has gone off. But I'm really proud of him. I mean, he's done better in this year in San Francisco than he did in all of his years in Kansas City. I remember a certain point in the offseason, like wondering, like, is he going to live up to his contract? Is he living up to it? At this point, I think the 49ers are ecstatic. There was definitely conversation, right? Like, is he a quarterback one, or is he kind of like a 1B2? I think he's really stepped up, especially middle to middle of the season to later of the second half of the season.
Absolutely. And when you look at the cornerbacks that were on the first team All Pro list, I got to give a special shout out to my guy DaRon Bland, even though he's a Dallas Cowboy. It's
You
great
talked
seeing.
about him like
I,
week 5, right?
I
Prior to week 5.
I talked about him before during the draft. So I said the Niners should draft this guy. I said it. I mean, I do have a little bit of bias. I mean, major bias. Um, growing up with him and stuff like that. So DaRon Bland, shout out to you, my brother. It's very cool
Hope you
seeing
lose in the
him.
playoffs, buddy. But good job.
But it's cool seeing DaRon. Like obviously, when you have 9 interceptions, lead the league in interceptions, 5 return for a touchdown, and then you have the other one, which is Sauce Gardner at the number one, the other all team pro corner. You kind of can't really like say there's no
Makes
case for those
sense.
two guys. Like those two guys have
Yeah.
a strong case. Now Charvarius Ward had a strong case too, but like you said, the beginning of the season, he has I want to say necessarily struggles, but he
There
was
was
up
like a
and down.
slump.
Like he was, yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't
He
what
was
he
getting a
was the
ton of
last 6, 7
PIs,
games.
right?
Hmm.
He's even talked about that. Like that later on in the second half of the season, he stopped getting called for so many penalties. Now, he did argue that like some of those penalties were like not rightfully called. I guess Kyle Shanahan even called him in his office and was like, hey, like, I just want you to know, like, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. So he definitely had support, but yeah, like that's gonna affect you. If the other guys are making incredible plays and not getting penalties, and for your first half you're getting penalties, I think second team. And I read something like right before the show, he got a massive bump in his contract too. So he's fine with it. Like he's probably not like kicking, super upset that he got second team because he just made a ton of money.
Did he? How much money did he make on like? Was it a big? He
Yeah,
earns a $250,000 dollar incentive for the second team All Pro. His Pro Bowl was also worth 250,000. So Ward earned $500,000. He's holding. Let me hold a dollar. Let me hold a
no big
band.
deal.
Let
Like
him
it,
know. Let me
right?
hold a band. Um, but it's cool to see players like that get those incentives when they're well deserved, right? Like
Yeah.
he made a strong case, and then Brandon Ayuk. I mean, Brandon Ayuk's case was strong for first team as well. But the
Yeah.
only thing is that first team All Pro, like that list of first team
Wide
All
receivers
Pros,
are incredible
they're
right now.
stacked. Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like those two had a
Makes
very
sense.
strong case. Like you can't really argue that they weren't.
That's what the Pro Bowl is weird. Is St. Brown didn't make the Pro Bowl, but then made first team All Pro. Like
It's
so
because the Pro
crazy.
Bowl is voted, and that's the thing. Like the Pro Bowl is voted by 33% of it is based
Fans,
off of
right?
fan voting. So if you have your fans literally put you in the top 2 of that position, you're making the Pro Bowl. Like
Yeah.
no matter what, if you're a good player, you're making the Pro Bowl at that. If you get ranked that high, so you're looking at the receivers, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and Amon-Ra. Those all 3 of those players had phenomenal years. Arguably, they were better years than Brandon Aiyuk, even though he had a phenomenal season. And as a
Yeah.
Niner fan, it sucks to say because like you want your players to be like number one at everything, but at the same time, we also got to remember that like these other players get paid mega millions too, and
Yeah.
they're superstars as well. So it's at the end of the day, it's cool seeing Brandon Ayuk get
And there's
recognized
no
as second
shame
team.
in like Yeah, there's no shame in being second team behind those two
Yeah.
players. Like, if anything, that's inspiring.
And if anything, if it should be more of an excitement for Brandon Aiyuk, because now he gets to go to the negotiation table and say, "Hey, I'm a second team All Pro. I'm an All Pro player. Pay me what
I
I
wonder
want."
if in his contract, do you think there were the same similar types of bonuses as Charvarius Ward?
I don't think so because he's on a rookie deal.
Okay.
So I'm not too sure. There might be. I think there might be. I don't know if it's like the first couple. I think it might be to do with the 5th-year option. I think I'm
Okay.
not too sure. I could be completely wrong. Um, so it's interesting how that works.
I have one question for you. So I was listening to, I think it was Tracy Sandler. She was interviewing Charvarius Ward at his locker, and this was when the Pro Bowl came out, and she like asked like, oh, like, do you think Brandon Aiyuk was left out off the list? And he said, I'm not going to name who, but I think one of those guys doesn't deserve to be on there anywhere close to Brandon Aiyuk. And then he was like, they're going to know who I'm talking about, like wink, wink. And then what did he say? He was like, we're going to show them. We're going to show them. And so it made me think that it was like a team that they were going to play. Now, obviously, players are all going to have their teammates back. But was he talking about Puka Nacua, AJ Brown? I wonder who he was like,
On the
who he
Pro
was
Bowl
hinting
list,
at.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think it was. I mean, it could have been Puka because they were trying to hold Puka to under. They weren't trying to let Puka break the record.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think it was towards AJ Brown. I don't think it was towards a rookie. Like if a rookie's
yeah,
in your
yeah,
head, like I think it was more so because the Eagles were talking their talk last year after they beat us. I think it was directed at the Eagles players. Like I
yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah.
It could be about Puka. I mean, that is a rivalry as well.
They've had like a lot of back and forth, and at this point, the Niners are feeling good because they're like, you died after we. I don't know what happened, but the Eagles crashed and burned after that game.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. But I'm gonna do one thing because I know we're streaming on both channels. If you're on
Yeah.
the Clutch Gene Sports channel, make sure you guys come over to Ashley's channel. All her information is in the description. Go over there, follow her YouTube channel. If you are on Ashley's channel, now do me a favor too. Come over to my
So like and
channel
subscribe
and,
to Marco's channel.
the Clutch Gene Sports. So make sure you
It's
guys are
also it
all
was just my birthday. So
happy
this is
birthday.
and Marco just got married. So as a wedding gift to Marco, since all of you guys didn't go, he totally ditched his ceremony that you were invited to, and then no one came to my birthday party. I was like, "Come on, guys, come visit," and you didn't. So now we need our presents, and in order to give us those, you have to like and subscribe to our YouTube channels.
It's a fair trade. But going back to going back to the all pro list, like it's honestly hard to really look at the list and say there's anything wrong with where the 49ers players, at least who made the list, or second team all pro players, or they have an argument for the first team, but the players that are the first team, like
I think
they
if you're
weren't.
being unbiased, it's fair.
Yeah, it was a fair first team and second team all pro, at least from the players from the 49ers players that made it. Now there's an argument for players that didn't make it.
So I figured we would also talk about that.